Welcome to Let's Be Well Together podcast. You're in the right place, the perfect place, if you're looking for a wellness check-in team whose goal is to remind you to think about wellness and encourage you to make wellness a priority. It all stems from my book, Accidentally Well.
This is episode 34.
A territorial acknowledgement improves allyship with Indigenous people. As part of a reconciliation process, we make our podcast from lands located within the traditional territory of the Neutral, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee peoples. We acknowledge the presence and traditional knowledge, laws, and philosophies of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land. We are treaty people, responsible to honor the original caretakers and to serve as stewards for the land. It's another week of Let's Be Well Together podcast, and I'm with Sammy again.
Hey, how are you?
And Sammy, you're so busy these days. I'm not sure
busy.
when this airs, but right now, you guys are kind of at the tail end of getting your new house. Congrats.
So close. Yeah.
Ready to move in, and it's your first house.
Yeah.
Which means even more work than usual because it's not just moving furniture and buying it. Mm-hmm. So what's going on with it? How's it going?
Yeah, I've had this conversation with quite a few people because we obviously we got the house in June. So people are like, when's your move-in date? I've been saying to everybody, it's like 90% done. And there's just like 10% left of just finishing things. And it almost feels longer than the 2 months, 3 months that have gone by because everything went so fast. But now it's like, we're painting and we're doing the baseboard. So it's just these little things.
And just to place it.
Yeah.
We're now just into the second week of September because I'm not sure when this airs. So you had pros come in and do some of the tear down work and putting up walls and putting up cabinets and all
Kitchen,
that. But now it's like, oh no, it's the work we have to do.
Yeah, exactly. There's still some stuff that they just have to finish up. They should be out this coming week. But then it's really on us, and getting materials and stuff can be hard. But I was talking with my sister about it, and she mentioned that it sounds like when you're on a really long car ride and it's 7 hours, and the first 6 hours, you're like, this is easy. And then the last hour, you're like, get me out of the car. Yeah, because that's how I feel. Yeah.
I remember Sheila and I came over and helped you guys paint earlier in the process. Everyone was gung-ho and happy. And, yeah, let's do this. And sure, no problem. And by the way, David's very understanding when people make these little mistakes painting and stuff.
Yeah, he's good.
And then I happened to drop by yesterday to see quickly, and I could tell you guys were like, oh my gosh, we're done.
I know.
We're so tired.
We just want to move in. We're good. There's still just some little things. And there's nothing pushing us to move in. It's not like we have to get out of a place. We're both living with our parents still. So it's not like they're pushing us out. So we could move in without baseboards, but we probably just won't because,
you don't want to.
We want to move into when it's finished and we feel good about everything. So.
And the sad thing about human nature, for whatever reason, you need that little bit of pain at the end to really enjoy it later.
Really
if
appreciate.
Everything went smooth.
Yeah.
And it was all easy.
Yeah.
You still enjoy it, but now you'll be sitting here going, oh, I'm so happy. We're so glad we're in.
Exactly.
So what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about in terms of what's on your mind, the theory that I was going with initially. So initially when I started kind of putting things together about balance, I wanted to come up with this magic formula. You do so much social and you do so much spiritual and you dash of physical. And you have this perfect balance formula that you stick with for the rest of your life. We've talked quite a few times about how I don't see it that way anymore. Yeah. It's balance for two things. One, it's balance over the course of a lifetime. Yeah. So for example, an easy example, a lot of us spend a lot of time at university working really hard, studying really hard, not making money or very much, or if we do, just enough to pay for school. Yeah. Why? Because we think ultimately that education will
help us. Yeah.
And now... this is another example. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk to you because right now you're probably kind of overwhelmed with everything you have to do for your place.
Definitely.
Okay. So what's going on with your other kind of categories and facets? So
honestly, I was thinking about this lately and they've all pretty much, there's a couple that I'm still very much engaged in. My social time is almost too much sometimes where I'm because with the house and then trying to be social, it can be too overstimulating and I need more personal time, honestly, just to myself when I can do some self-care, like the gym.
Right.
I probably haven't been to the gym, which is so unfortunate because I was having a lot of fun at the gym, and I'm paying for it still every month. But I just haven't really been able to get there just at a decent time. And even waking up early, my body's just so exhausted that I don't want to wake up until 8:30, and then roll out of bed and go to the computer and start working. And my balance of my day-to-day is definitely off.
Your everyday kind of routine is
my
shot.
Routine. Yeah.
I guess maybe with the gym, maybe you're getting some physical stuff with all the work you're doing.
That's what I like to tell myself. I'm like, I feel like I am still getting like some physical activity in, and we take David's dog for a walk every day too. So I get like a 20-minute walk in, but it's still not as much endurance. And I'm starting to teach dance again. So hopefully that will help me get back into a routine, but I'm definitely a routine person. So it throws me off when I'm not in it. And from the
housework, are you like the working on the house? Are you noticing a few muscles that you didn't know you had? Because
definitely at the beginning with the painting, I was like, oh, my back and my arms were hurting quite a bit. But we haven't painted in a while now. So it's a little bit better, but yeah, definitely.
No, you said social is a bit overwhelming. Is that, so I'm trying to sort that out. Is that because you're either working or you're with your friends, no downtime, or are you also, because I think your friends are coming over a lot to help too.
Yeah.
So you're socializing while you're working, you're socializing when you're not working.
Yeah, and I'm so thankful for everybody who's been able to come over and help and everything. So it's not even that when people are over to help, I'm like, yeah, like, welcome. It's when we also have, 3 different friend gatherings over the weekend. And I'm like, oh, I need to, do my skincare routine. I need to like have a bath, like just like little things that give me my own downtime to be able to be social. Because I am a very social person, but sometimes when I don't get that downtime, I find I'm, like more triggered or like more short-tempered, which I am like a pretty calm person. But when I don't get my me time, I can be a little more angry version of myself.
I kind of remember too that for the last kind of some of the sign-offs, you've been away at cottages with a whole bunch of friends.
Yes.
It's that time of year. Wow. So
Summer.
Basically right now it's physical because of the hard work.
Yeah.
It's social because everything that's going on.
Yeah.
And it's probably some of the other stuff, the routine stuff that's trailing off.
Definitely. And I also think for social, because COVID, the past 2 summers, we haven't really been able to be as social as we want to. So this summer, I feel like because a lot of the, rules have been lifted, everybody's like, we're doing this, we're getting married, we're having a party, we're going to the cottage, like all of that stuff. We're going on a trip. So it's just everybody's kind of extra social, which, I understand.
I kind of read something about that, how there's a bunch of articles where they're expecting like the roaring 20s to come back and that kind of stuff.
Right. Interesting. That'd be fun.
Yeah, because everyone's like, yeah, we're back.
Yeah.
So we'll have to wait and see if that works. So
you never know.
So then the question, is it worth it? So right now, you probably don't have the best balance that you've had in the last couple of years.
For sure.
You recognize that in yourself. Is it worth it?
I think so. I do. Like, I am still very excited about the process. I can complain about it and say it's unfortunate, but we are so fortunate to even be in this situation of being able to afford a house at our age. Yeah, I'm really excited. Me and David just keep talking about, we bought a couch off Facebook, but we're just both so excited to when we can finally move in that couch and just like relax and watch a show or a movie, just like chill.
Or more likely fall asleep on
the couch with a glass of wine. Probably not red because it is a white couch, but
you won't even finish drinking.
Exactly. Just fall right asleep. So we are very excited for that moment of everything's for the most part done and we can live in it, and now we can kind of relax and slowly start furnishing it and making it feel more like home.
Well, I think it's a great example of finding balance this week that might look different than last week, that'll look different than next week. And I can tell you just from personal experience, it's worth it. It's just so enriching, especially I've mentioned before that when you do it yourself, even if you don't do it all, even the pros did most, but you did a lot.
Yeah.
When you are lying on that couch, when you wake up again,
when
you have time to wake up,
it
just feels great. You know, you made the choices on the colors and the design. And
definitely.
And it looks beautiful and you can really enjoy it.
For sure.
Okay, well, you do that.
Thank you.
Guests are giving their time, expanding our minds,
So today we are talking to Elise Seifert. She is a primary teacher for the past 5 years. She's also been a dance teacher for most of her life. She's a certified yoga instructor, an accomplished pianist, as well as an amateur guitarist. She is also, for full disclosure, our daughter. So welcome, Elise.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so today we will be talking about yoga. So how did you get into yoga?
I first started practicing yoga when I was in university. So the university that I attended had a yoga club, and it was just a really reasonably priced club where you could participate in 2 yoga classes a week. And you could do that either on campus, or they had community yoga studios that were involved. So you could visit the hot yoga studios if you would like. There were dedicated times for those students to visit. So I thought it was a great way to try yoga. I had always danced growing up, so I thought that it would be a nice transition into an activity that I would enjoy. And it was so much more than I expected.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I didn't really realize the connection between mindfulness and physical practice. I didn't realize that that was really the focus of yoga. I had just imagined it was an exercise class.
A light exercise class.
Yeah. And I thought, I like stretching. I was a dancer, so I think I'll enjoy this. And I remember vividly when I had first started, maybe within the first month, I had taken a class and I felt very mindful. I felt I was just really into the class. And at the end, you lay in your final resting pose, shavasana. And it's just a time for you to take in your practice. And I had almost like an out-of-body experience. I felt like I was so grounded, yet I was floating up into the sky, into the stars. And it was almost like a high, you know how they talk about a runner's high?
Yeah.
I had kind of like a yoga high.
Wow. And that was your first class?
It was within probably the first month that I had started. And I thought, I love that. I'm chasing this high and I'm going to continue practicing. So I did that all throughout university. And then after university, I had moved to South Korea. I was teaching English there for a couple of years.
Right.
And while I was there, a friend of mine from university came to South Korea as well. And she said to me, I would love to travel after my contract is done. Do you want to come with me? I said, definitely. So she said, I want to go to Southeast Asia and India. And I said, that sounds great. So my contract had ended earlier than hers. So I had some time to kill. And I had this time where I wasn't grounded to anything. I didn't have a house. I wasn't in a job. I didn't really need a job at the time because I was just waiting to travel. And I thought, when else am I going to have this opportunity to do something for myself? And it made me think of the book, Eat, Pray, Love.
Yes. Yeah.
Where in that book, she goes to Italy.
Yeah.
India and Indonesia.
Right.
And I was thinking about her experiences in India and her spiritual growth that she had. And I thought, I would love to do something like that. And I know I love the practice of yoga. How can I incorporate yoga into a spiritual experience? And so I did some research. And I had found that there were a lot of retreats that you could do within India, but I also found they were the same price as a teacher training program. So if you went for your teacher training program, it was around the same price.
For sure. Because I've definitely wanted to do a yoga retreat. And yeah, the yoga certification is the same price.
Very similar. So I thought, why not get a certification out of this? At that point in my life, I thought this is something I could certainly use. It would be something that I could come back to Canada and start practicing and start teaching. So I decided to do that. And I went to a location in Goa, India, which is West Coast on the beach, surprisingly.
Yeah.
And it's a really amazing community. There are a lot of, I guess, people from Europe who go there for kind of spiritual exploration. So it's a very open community. There were drum circles every night at sunset on the beach.
Just random drum circles.
It happened every night on the beach.
Wow.
Yep. So people meditating and playing music together. It's kind of like a community of people who are seeking wellness, spiritual wellness. So it was a really interesting place to be. So I went there for 1 month. It was a 200-hour teacher training course. So it was 6 days a week that we practiced. We would do 2 2-hour asana classes a day. So that's the physical practice of yoga. And we did different forms of yoga each day. So we alternated between hatha and vinyāsa and therapeutic and ashtanga yoga. So those are the styles that I was trained in.
Okay. And can you tell us the difference between those styles?
Sure. So hatha is the original form of yoga. And what makes it unique is, I guess, the pattern that it follows in your poses.
Okay.
So you start actually laying down using your supine poses, so on your back, to prone poses on your stomach, to kneeling, to standing. And then ashtanga yoga practices a set of poses. It follows the exact same poses each class.
Okay.
So while hatha, you can kind of be more flexible in what kind of poses you might practice for those different positions. Ashtanga is a set of poses that you practice in the specific order. And then vinyāsa is known as fire yoga. So it's what people would know as a flow class.
Oh, okay.
So you're moving more quickly between your poses, and you're often incorporating more sun salutations to keep warmth in your body as you practice.
Right.
And then therapeutic yoga is yoga using manipulatives, I guess you could say, or equipment to help maintain the proper postures within your yoga. So you would be using bands, pillows, blocks, and it's to help with injuries and also to help maintain proper form.
Oh, okay. That's really interesting.
So we participated in those 2 parts of the day. And something I had learned was that you're supposed to do yoga on an empty stomach. So our classes would be from 7 a.m. till 9 a.m. And then we would have our, I guess, study classes. We would have philosophy. We would have how to structure your yoga class, so teaching yoga. And we would have anatomy. And then from 4 to 6, once you've kind of digested your lunch, then we would have our second asana class. And then from 7 to 8, we had our meditation class. So we did asana classes, meditation classes, and then academic type classes where you would learn more about yoga.
Okay. So what else did the program entail?
So we actually did a lot of learning through books. So the course, they gave to us some textbooks, and we had done some studying around the philosophy of yoga, particularly anatomy of yoga, and how to structure our classes. And we would do a lot of those readings during an extended lunch break.
Okay. And after you're done your last yoga class, you would have dinner at 8 o'clock?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a later dinner, and all of the meals were vegan friendly. They were all vegan options. And I remember the best part was our dessert was a banana.
Oh.
And I had never had a banana right off of the tree before. It's very full and plump. And you know how bananas have stringy texture to them? They don't when they're ready.
Fresh and ripe. And wow, that's cool. Yeah. That was your dessert, a banana?
A banana.
Every day?
Yep.
Okay. And then bedtime?
And then bedtime, and then start it all over again. We would get up pretty early for our 7 a.m. yoga class.
Okay. And now you'd like to talk about the 8 limbs of yoga.
Yes. So I think the main learning that I had taken away from this experience, at least from my philosophy classes, was that the physical practice of yoga, so what we in the Western culture consider
yoga,
exactly, is actually just one of the limbs of yoga.
Okay.
So to follow the practice of yoga, you're meant to be following the 8 limbs. So I can tell you some more about what those limbs are.
Perfect.
So the first one are the yamas, and those are social etiquettes, so how you treat other people. So some examples are kindness, truthfulness, non-stealing, moderation, and generosity.
Okay.
The second are the niyamas. So these are your personal practices,
okay,
so how you treat yourself.
Okay.
And they include purity or cleanliness. And this one was interesting. When my teacher would talk about it, he would talk about your environment and how you maintained a clean environment. And he noted when we would take off our shoes to go into the yoga studio, you'd kind of just kick off your shoes and place them there. And he said, we need to be more intentional about how we keep everything in our life. So how we keep our shoes, how we keep our environment. And I thought that that worked really well with some of the discussions that you and Dad had been having. So the first one is cleanliness. These are the niyamas, which are our personal practices. We have contentment, austerity, self-study, and surrender. Surrendering to yourself. The third limb is asana. That's the physical practice of yoga.
Okay.
Next, we have pranayama, which is breathing, mindful breathing. Next, we have pratyahara, which is turning inwards, looking in towards yourself.
Okay.
Next, we have dharana, concentration, dhyana, which is deconcentration, and samadhi is considered bliss. So when you have all of the limbs working together at once, you reach samadhi.
Blissfulness.
Yeah. So coming from a Western philosophy, I think some of the limbs were a little hard for me to even wrap my mind around. And the teacher had explained that if you start from the beginning and work your way up towards the higher limbs, it makes more sense. But as a Western culture, I think sometimes it's kind of hard to live by some of these philosophies because we're taught in such different ways. We prioritize many different things. We don't really prioritize looking inward.
No.
We don't really prioritize putting ourselves first. So I found that practice very, very interesting. And he had also said, if you try to really follow these practices to a T, you will not fit in to your culture. And I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, that is very interesting. But like I always say, do we want to fit in?
Yeah,
That's not the most important thing. No, but that is excellent. It's very similar to the whole circle of wellness and what we're trying to explain. And interesting that, Dad really hasn't done much yoga or this mindful training of yoga and the philosophy of it, but has come up with this similar philosophy.
When I had been reading about the facets of wellness, I thought, wow, a lot of these really connect to the ideas, particularly the yamas and the niyamas and the practices that you have for yourself.
And the physical wellness, right? And the mindfulness and the taking care of our environment. And yeah, it's very, very true that all these have to work together.
And the importance of breath is something definitely that's very important to yoga. And I remember my teacher saying, this is a very interesting concept, but you live a certain number of breaths, not a certain number of years. So when you think about particular animals that breathe heavier, like a dog who's panting, they live a shorter life. And then when you think about an animal like a whale or a turtle and how they take long breaths at varied intervals and they live for such a long period of time. And I remember one of the students asking, but what about runners? They're running and they're panting and they're working really hard, but they typically are healthier and have an extended period of life. And our teacher had said it's because when they're in rest, they can control their breath and they take longer breaths at that point. So that was a really interesting idea, an interesting concept. And I've thought about that a lot since that conversation.
Been more conscious of your breath. Well, thank you very much for bringing this in, because we do talk a lot about yoga and enjoy yoga, but we don't know all about the 8 limbs of yoga. So we definitely can incorporate that. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And now we're at the end of the interview, so I'm sure you have heard about the questions that we always ask. So every guest, we ask the same question based on different facets or areas of wellness. Are you currently neglecting an area of wellness? If so, which one, and what do you think you can do in order to facilitate your wellness?
I think the area that I'm lacking in right now is my spiritual wellness, which it's interesting because I'm here talking about yoga and the spirituality of it. But I think I've fallen away from practicing even my yoga practice as well as my meditation practice. And it's something that brings a lot of calm and peace to my body. And I think bringing some more meditation practices to my life would really help to develop my spiritual growth.
Yeah, I've been trying that too, doing some meditation, and every time I do, I fall asleep. But I think
what? Our yoga teacher said, if you fall asleep, your body just needs to sleep.
Yes. Oh, that's good. Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I'm Cameron, and welcome to another installment of the Adventures of the Starving Artist. This weekend, I played a wedding with a team of musicians with whom I've never played before. And it was awesome to meet some new musician friends and make some connections that way, but it was also a little bit intimidating at first. They've all played together several times at gigs in the past, whereas I was new guy, so I didn't know anybody's song lists or sets, I didn't know their preferred keys, all that sort of thing. So it was a lot of learning in a very short amount of time. But I got it done, and I felt pretty confident with it. The story I want to share from the wedding, though, is just a sweet little thing. We were asked to do the first dance, and by we, I mean I was playing the guitar and singing harmonies, and the lead female vocalist, her name was Dee Dee, was singing the melody. Now, we were both feeling fairly confident in our own parts, but we didn't really have a chance to run it as a team. We briefly stumbled through it at the one short rehearsal we had, but we didn't even do the whole song. So the day of the wedding, there was a bit of a time before we had to perform it, and so she pulled me aside and said, "Hey, do you want to go run this somewhere?" Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, yes. So we asked one of the staff members at the venue, "Is there a spot we can go sort of hide and do this quickly?" She says, let me find out. She disappears into the kitchen for a minute, and she comes back and says, "Okay, follow me." I'm thinking, the kitchen? That's going to be pretty crowded. I don't know. I used to work in a kitchen, so I know how bustling and busy a place it is. And sometimes, especially at a wedding, where it's very quick turnover from plating the food to serving the food, you don't want to get in the way. It's a very well-oiled machine, and it needs to run like clockwork. So I was a bit nervous. But when we got in the kitchen, it was really neat. They had sort of parted the seas of the kitchen team to let us through, which was really cool. So we thanked them for, their patience and for letting us through, and of course for dinner, which was delicious. And the staff member led us to a back stairwell. So a stairwell doesn't have a ton of room to move, unless of course you're moving up and down the stairs, which we weren't. But there's a lot of space for the sound to reverberate, and so the acoustics are really nice. It kind of adds a natural reverb. Pretty cool. So we run the song a couple times, and for those who are interested, the song that the bride and groom had chosen for their first dance was More Than Words by Extreme. I bet you know it, and if you don't, Google it. I bet you'll recognize it. Beautiful song. So we run it a couple times, and we're feeling a lot more confident. And as we head out to go actually perform it, the kitchen staff gave us a little mini round of applause, so that was kind of nice. We did the first dance, and then it was party time, rocking with the whole band until the wee hours of the morning. Always a fun time. That's my little story for you. A new team of musicians, some new connections, a whole bunch of new tunes in a not very long amount of time, and a mini show for the kitchen. That's all I got for you this week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Cameron. This is The Starving Artist. Until next time.
We love our listeners, and it's great that you could join us. We could use your help. How? Listen to our episodes, subscribe to us, and rate us on your favorite podcast platform. Follow us on Instagram at lets.be.well.together. And make sure you tell your friends about us.
Move that body like we're meant to do. Hi everyone, it's John and Sheila here from Move That Body. And today, instead of talking about exercises for moving that body, we are going to talk about things that can help move that body.
You got it.
Yeah, and so the one I'm going to talk about today is iron. Why is iron important, John?
Okay, so I looked it up before we did this.
Yeah.
And here's what I found. Iron is a major component of hemoglobin. That's a type of protein in red blood cells that carries oxygen from your lungs to all parts of the body. So without enough iron, there aren't enough red blood cells to transport oxygen, which leads to fatigue.
So if you don't have iron, you'll get tired. And I had this experience actually. And I think a lot of women, older women, get low on iron. I don't know why it is, but it is something that happens. And it definitely happened to me.
How would it feel?
You're tired. You're like really tired. And for me, I would fight it all the time, but I would go up like a flight of stairs and get dizzy.
And how'd you find out that it was low iron?
Oh, the doctor
Oh, okay.
did a blood test and she said, you're really low on iron.
From what I remember, it's hard. It's not one of these things you can just be like, zoop, you take something, you got iron in your system.
Yeah. Like,
So
I don't think the pills, your body absorbs them completely, but also my body did not like the pills.
Yeah, people react differently.
Yeah. So I didn't like iron pills. So I tried to do all these other things, but I didn't have this information. A friend of mine posted this little post that said foods other than meat that are high in iron.
Yeah, so you got a list.
So John, what do you think is high in iron that's not a meat?
For whatever reason, what popped into my head is spinach.
Yeah, me too. Spinach I thought was high in iron, and it's not even on the list.
Oh, well, I mean, I think it does have some iron in it.
Yeah.
Okay, so things on your list have even more.
Yeah.
The only other thing I can think of that's not meat, like, I know red meat has it, is for some reason I think lentil.
Lentils, yeah. Lentils are high in iron.
Is it on the list?
On the list, very high on the list,
cool.
actually.
All right.
Yeah, so the highest one is sesame seeds.
Oh, I love sesame
Me
seeds.
too, especially like John puts sesame seeds on bread.
Yeah, I make sourdough bread.
Yeah.
And I always like putting some sesame seeds and poppy seeds on the top.
Yeah.
More sesame than poppy. But probably that wouldn't be enough. Like you probably maybe have to sprinkle them in your salad, sprinkle them on.
Yeah, or in your breakfast, for sure.
And I know one time too, I wanted to have some sesame seeds around just because I like the flavor of them.
Okay.
But I toasted them.
Uh-huh.
And then I threw them in a jar and then would sprinkle the toasted ones on stuff.
That's really good.
Yeah. Yummy.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is wheat germ.
I don't even know what that is.
I don't know what it is either, but nutritionists I know are always talking about wheat germ, and it's very healthy for you. So wheat germ has high iron.
Maybe we need to see what wheat germ is.
Pumpkin seeds. 'Tis the season. Pumpkins.
Yeah. We're recording this. It's early September, so in the not too distant future, we'll see pumpkin seeds kicking around. Now, I like pumpkin seeds, but kind of in moderation.
I love pumpkin seeds.
Yeah.
I think I like a lot of seeds.
Right.
Like just generally, yeah. Cashew nuts.
Who doesn't like cashews?
I love cashews. Lentils, like you said. Apricots, dried apricots.
And are you kind of going from the higher to the lower?
I am. I'm going from the highest in iron to the lowest, yeah. And all of these are pretty close.
Dried apricots. Yeah, I'm not really a dried fruit person, but that's something to keep in mind.
I find them really sweet, dried apricots.
True.
But they're delish. Flaxseed.
Yeah, there's places for that.
Tofu.
Tofu. Yeah, I don't eat that much tofu, but I do like it when we have tofu on meals.
Well, the great thing about tofu is it kind of takes on flavors. Like it can take on the flavor of chicken. It can take on the flavor of what you're cooking it in. So tofu obviously is really healthy for you. Something we should cook with. Sunflower seeds. Yum.
Oh, I love sunflower seeds.
Ooh, yeah. Oats.
Oats. That's good because I have oatmeal every morning.
Every morning.
Do you think that's what kind of oats you're talking about? Because what I have is just plain rolled oats.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think so, yeah. Quinoa.
Quinoa? Yeah. I was kind of had a quinoa phase. I haven't made it much in a while, but I do like it.
Yeah. Doesn't this make you want to make your healthy nutrition bars or whatever they were called,
No, but it makes me want to make my black bean quinoa burgers.
Ooh, yeah, those were good.
Yeah, I worked on a recipe and now I got it so it's just enough spice to be delish.
Yeah, because black beans and kidney beans are on the list.
Oh, good.
Yeah. The next one is nutritional yeast. Now, is that the type of yeast that you put in your bread?
No, I remember that too. So there was a time where I was cooking, I think, for Elise when she was vegetarian. And so I was experimenting with different stuff. And from what I remember, nutritional yeast was often used in food where you'd want kind of a cheese flavor.
Okay.
So it's kind of this flaky, powdery stuff. You buy it in a bulk store. I'm sure you can get it anywhere. I'm not exactly sure. I just know it has that kind of flavor to it.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Okay. Nutritional yeast. And dried peaches.
More dried fruit.
More dried fruit. Pistachios.
I love pistachios.
Pistachios. Olives.
I'm not a big olive fan.
I don't like olives.
No.
Which is surprising because I really like salty things and olives are salty, but I don't like olives.
I like olive oil.
Me too. Olive oil is great. Okay, so kidney beans, chickpeas, and tempeh.
Again, when I was cooking vegetarian food, tempeh it's not quite like tofu.
No.
It's a little firmer.
Yeah.
But there's lots of cool things you can do with it and, almost like a meat substitute.
Yeah. Tempeh is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like it. So there you go. Things that help keep your energy up and help increase your iron, which will help you move that body.
And the nice thing too is I love seeing common themes coming over and over. So, you might be reading about healthy eating on one area and you see you should eat nuts. Like people should eat a few more nuts as part of their diet. And again, the problem I have with nuts though is they are higher in calories. So
right. You gotta, there's so many pros and cons, eh?
I do find that if I eat too many nuts, I put on weight. But if I have like a dozen almonds or, a small handful of nuts, and I regularly eating nuts, I feel better.
Me too.
And now we see it on this list too for iron. So, and again, I think a lot of the stuff we see on the list that's good for iron, we see on a whole bunch of other things that are good for other areas.
Yeah, healthy eating. Who knew?
Right. So you want to move that body, you need oxygen. For oxygen, you need iron. So this is a good thing to think about. And another reason why everyone should really focus on nutrition, healthy eating to move that body.
There's a thought. Popped up while running.
There's lots of great, unexpected, beneficial byproducts of getting in shape. So one of them is actually, it helped me really get in touch with my body more. And I can think of, for example, a couple of really strong points associated with that. One, let's say, is illuminating, and the other is, say, motivating. So on the illuminating, I wear a watch and use my phone and apps when I'm running. And I often do the same runs, or I often run at the same speed. And so you notice over time what your heart rate is. So you know that if you're running at a certain speed, your heart rate's about a certain amount. And you just keep noticing it. Off you go running. Now I've seen, and I had read about this, but I didn't really appreciate it till I experienced it. A couple times I'll be out running and I can see that my heart rate is like 10 beats per minute faster than I would expect at the speed I'm running at. So it's like the normal day, but why is my heartbeat 10 beats a minute faster? And sure enough, I then realized I was coming down with a bit of a cold or a bit of the sniffles or something. And so it turns out that for me, heart rate is a good monitor of something happening where I better be careful because I might be getting sick. And more recently, unfortunately, I haven't been eating that well, as I keep saying on recent episodes, and I haven't been really doing enough strength training and core training. And so getting in touch with my body has turned out to be motivating because right now I don't feel great when I run. I feel like I'm kind of plodding along, kind of thumping, a little out of breath more than usual than I expect. And I know that's because I need to turn things around. And I really want that great feeling that I get when I'm clicking along, when I am in better shape. So that feeling of just being able to run and feel like it's so natural, like just flowing. Your legs are carrying you easily as opposed to thumping and thumping. That's going to hopefully motivate me now to say, okay, I can get there, give myself a bit of time. But because I know my body and I know what it is now and what I can get to, I can turn things around. It's me. Am I?
Yeah. So let me say, flip side of the coin.
We're working off a quote that Sheila found, but it's attribution unknown, which means we don't know who said this. But somebody said, we cannot force someone to hear a message they're not ready to receive, but we must never underestimate the power of planting a seed.
Right.
That makes me think of so many situations, and it kind of the thought is don't give up before you try. Mm-hmm. And I'll say that a lot in different contexts because it's so easy just to not do something because you don't think it's going to work. So for example, someone, you know that if you have a good idea for someone, you don't want to be a know-it-all. You don't want to tell them what to do. And you also know they're not ready for whatever reason to do what you think is a good thing to help them do. Mm-hmm. And so then you just keep your mouth shut, or do you plant a seed?
Yeah.
So what are some of the contexts you can think of?
When you're raising children or when you're dealing with children or teenagers or teaching them, they're not ready to receive the message. They're just not in the right frame of mind. So you just got to kind of slowly plant that seed and then hopefully something will grow from it.
You have to slowly plant the seed, or you have to plant the seed and then let things happen slowly? Or both?
Okay, you have to plant the seed. Yeah, you might have to plant it, water it.
Yeah.
I'll do a lot.
Multiple plantings.
But I was saying that about John too, that sometimes because he doesn't like doing things right away. He's not like, oh yeah, let's do it. So I have to kind of plant the seed and slowly plant the seed. And then maybe the next day he'll come up with an idea, which was exactly what I wanted to do.
Well, I'm not laughing.
Now I'm giving away all my...
Yeah, now I'm onto it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do agree that, like, if you say, for example, oh, John, by the way, tonight we're going and doing this event, and I'll be like, what? You didn't tell me about it.
Yeah.
No, maybe sometimes you did, but then you're like, okay, fine. So you have to tell me like a week in advance on next Thursday.
Yeah. I'd say, hey, what do you think, like a week before? Hey, what do you think of this event? It's a great fundraiser. And you're like, oh, that's interesting. And then the next day, like, hey, I'm going to buy these tickets.
Yeah. And for me, so this kind of ties into when I wrote the book. I did it because there's messages I was working through myself. I was trying to figure out approach to wellness that works for me and then develop it and make it make more sense. Ultimately, I got to the point where I thought, well, first of all, it's for anybody. It could be for any age. But what I'm finding is, for the most part, the people right now who are gravitating to it are a bit closer to our age. But it's really targeted for people who are just out of high school or just at that age, just through the university, trade school, started career age. And the idea is, I wish I could go back in time and know the lessons I know now back then.
Right.
I would have made a lot less mistakes. I would have had a lot less heartache. I would have had a lot less stress in my life. But I know
it's really hard, isn't it?
That most of the people in my target age group aren't ready yet.
No.
And so then I thought, well, what do I do? And for the longest time, I thought, forget it. It's a waste of time.
Right.
They're all going to say the same thing. Thanks, old white guy. But I want to stub my own toe. Thanks very much. Even if you're right, which I'm not convinced that I need to read your book to find out if you are right.
Right.
But ultimately I decided, no, I'm planting the seed. And maybe if somebody reads it when they're in that age group, they're like, yeah, whatever. And they set it aside. But maybe instead of being like me and figuring out some of these things at mid 50s, maybe they figure it out at mid 30s. And so they still save 2 decades of screwing up the way I did.
Yeah, you kind of want to help. You know what I mean? Like help the next generation and get them to learn from your mistakes. It's just, they're just not ready sometimes at that age.
And the other one that we were chatting about when I saw the quote was friends. Like, you have a friend, they're going through a struggle. It could be any kind of struggle. And some friends, it's maybe they're drinking too much. Some friends, maybe they're working too hard and won't slow down. Other friends, they got problems at home. And like you have an idea that you think might help them.
Right.
You don't want to come across as a know-it-all. They're not ready to do what they need to do yet. And again, I lean towards lightly planting the seed. I kind of like your idea.
It's a great idea.
Maybe you do it more than once.
Yeah.
But just plant the seed without any kind of pushing way, without any kind of pressure. And they know, like they probably already know. And maybe by hearing that, maybe that seed grows at some point. The only last thought I would have before we leave, though, is I always like this quote because I remember a long time ago, people were talking about heaven. So if you believe in heaven, the afterlife, there's all different variations. People wonder, what do you look like in heaven? Or what age are you? Are you in your 20s? Are you in your 50s? But somebody said something once that really kind of blew me away. And I thought it was really cool, which is, hey, John, if you take a seed and you plant it, it doesn't grow into a big seed.
True.
It looks completely different.
Yeah.
And most people who don't know about seeds wouldn't be able to tell by looking at a seed
what it
turns
like.
into.
Yeah, for sure.
And so maybe that's what heaven is for those who believe in heaven.
Yeah, they blossom into something
you
else.
may not look anything like a human at all. But
yes.
Meanwhile, all I'm saying is if you plant a seed, who knows? Maybe it won't turn out to be exactly what you thought it would end up being, but it might be something, and it hopefully be something good.
Yes.
Please remember that we're not providing advice. We hope to inspire you to work towards balance, and we urge you to consult with qualified people if you need advice. The people on the show are speaking in their personal capacities. Their views expressed are their own, and don't represent the views or opinions of their outside contacts, their employers, or anyone else. We try to get things right, but we can't guarantee everything we say is correct, or that the things we talk about will work for you. Let's be well together, and let's be sure to do that in a safe way. It is sign-off time, and it's John with Sheila and Cameron tonight.
Hello.
Sammy is celebrating a birthday with a sibling, so she's out having fun with the family tonight.
Yep.
I'm going to start off with Sheila, but before I do, I just really enjoyed that Starving Artist today, Cameron, with the story about the stairwell, and I was actually listening to it, the test version of the episode when I was out for a run, and then I stopped and found on Spotify the song you were talking about, and somehow I could kind of picture you guys doing it. It was just sounded amazing in my head, so I hope it sounded amazing at the wedding. Moment. Yeah.
So I played the guitar and I sang the harmony part, and
awesome.
Then her name was Dee Dee. She sang the lead. It was awesome.
Well, someday I hope to hear that. So Sheila, what's up this week and what happened last week? How are you doing?
I'm great. Yeah, getting ready for our trip, so that's exciting. We're doing all the plans for England and the Queen's funeral today. Hopefully it's a little calmer when we get there, but I'm still thinking that it will be pretty exciting energy going on. So we had a busy week. So we had fun at the comedy show And hats off to all those comedians. They were awesome. So
And
hopefully
Sammy
some of them
said
are
to say
listening.
that she had a great time too.
Yeah, it was really, really good. And then we went to Niagara on the lake and met some people for dinner on Friday and had to drive in that traffic. It was horrible. But we had a great night. And then we went wine biking. So did a wine tour with our bikes. And that was a lot of fun too. But then on Sunday, we had to drive up to Hollywood. We had to do some stuff up there. So it was just a lot of driving for me. And because I drive with my business, my legs are actually a little sore, like just from sitting and driving. So that's a bit of a drag.
In Collingwood, we had just something we had to do for the place that we rent out. There was something going on that we needed to help the tenants with. So we drove all the way up there to do half an hour's worth of work and then turned around and drove back.
Yeah, literally. I don't even think it was a half hour.
No.
Oh, man.
Yeah, so a lot of time in the car this weekend and the week too. So anyways, so that's all that's up with me. What about you, Cameron?
Well, things are also pretty busy on this end. Like we were discussing earlier, it's the time of year where all the school boards are going back to school. Mm-hmm. So I've had a huge sort of resurgence of students that took the summers off, a bunch of new students, and all the scheduling, shuffling around and stuff. So it's been really busy on the day job side of things. But also, like we were talking about earlier, this time of year, something about it, I have this like instinct to kind of slow down a bit. And those two don't match very well.
No.
So I've just been kind of feeling that out a little bit. But it's been lessons after lessons after lessons every day this past couple of weeks. On the sort of personal side, something I'm trying new. I made my very first cast iron pizza this past weekend.
Oh,
Cool.
that's exciting. Yeah.
So, a little homemade junk food. Somehow it doesn't feel quite as bad, but it was really good. Really, really good.
You mean
That's
like a
dangerous.
cast iron frying pan and you make a pizza in it?
Yeah.
Oh, neat.
You get this awesome deep dish style. It was really good. So it's a dangerous recipe to have learned.
Sorry, you made the dough yourself?
I did it all from scratch. Yeah.
Wow, good for you.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm not much in the kitchen, but that was fun.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to have stumbled onto something I enjoy there. And there's something about eating something you made like that right from scratch. It just tastes that much better.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah. So going forward this week, I might do myself another pizza.
Yeah.
But mostly just getting in the groove with all the students returning and all the new students, and everyone finds their stride.
Yeah.
What about you, John? What's going on?
Okay, well, I'll talk about next week and then go back to last week. So UK is getting real. I mean, we're leaving here in less than a week. So now it's at the point where I'm on the internet. I'm booking tickets for things. One really cool thing was that I found out that the Airbnb we rented just happened to be almost on the marathon route.
Yeah.
So if it had just been a little bit closer, I could have stopped in and had a nap halfway through. But
Stopped in and have a nap.
it's about 400 meters off the route, which means I'd have to add 800 meters, which is I'm not going to do that.
But that means I don't have to go very far.
No, you could come down and
Yeah, I could probably wave out my window.
yeah, and I could give you my sweat.
Yeah.
I could give you some sweaty gloves or something.
Yeah, that's great.
So anyway, I'm really excited about UK. And then last week, 3 amazing things happened. So Sheila said the one already. We had such a great time in Niagara in the Lake.
It was wonderful.
So the Friday night we went to this amazing restaurant.
Yeah.
Sheila had a pretty good pizza there.
Yeah, I did.
Right on.
And then the winery is great. And then 2 other amazing things happened last week. One was the Rusty Nail Comedy Festival at Crazy Canuck. We went to one of the shows. It was just amazing.
Yeah, shout out to Sandy. Good job.
And maybe this is the best. I did my last really long run for training before I do the marathon. So
yeah.
finally,
That is exciting.
I'm doing, it's tapering. It's called tapering now, where I kind of still do some running, but not as far distances. And man, it is hard doing 5 really long runs in a row, 5 weeks in a row. And it's not going to be easy doing the marathon either. That's going to be really challenging. But at least now I know that I just have to do that one more really long one, and I can put this whole thing behind me.
Until
Well done, dude.
seriously, the very next day he starts talking about what he's going to do next.
Well, I'm not going to talk about that right now.
No.
Okay, so that's it for me. You guys got anything else?
No, but the next time we do our sign off, we will be in England.
That's right. That's right. It's going to sound a little lousy because I'm going to just do it on my computer, but we'll do something and it'll be from England, and you'll know whether I survived or not and
We'll
whether
try
I
and
finished.
change our accent a little.
Oh,
Be
so
live on location.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I don't know how. Maybe I'll pick it up when I get there and we'll try.
Okay, well, everybody have a fantastic week. We hope you enjoyed the episode, and we're looking forward to next week's.
Have a good week, everyone. That is it for today's show. Please try and make wellness a priority.
You deserve it.
If you feel the need to talk to someone or ask for help, please do that.
Accept yourself for the person you are.
So long.
Adieu.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Goodbye.